Hi, Eugene. How are you?
Hi, great, Jana. How are you today?
Great. Excellent. So, tonight we're going to do a deeper dive into gender equality and what it really means. So, anyone listening can see, does it really mean gender rights for women, or is there something a little bit more sinister behind it? So, I'll turn it over to you, Eugene, to go through this.
Yeah, thanks, Janice. It's one of the Sustainable Development Goals. So I suppose, again, just to highlight that for people, Sustainable Development Goal number 5 is gender equality with the little symbol that you see up there. And I'm suggesting by the graphic underneath that it's actually something different. And it is something different. We're going to get it. So I'm saying that this is a marketing exercise in what I would describe as doublespeak, where the same word means two different things. So it means, on the one hand, equal rights for women, equal opportunity for career, all that kind of thing. And on the other hand, it's pushing transgender ideology. And both are true at the same time. So we'll kind of see it as we go through it now. So to give you some examples of this. So this is the
And Eugene,
website. Yeah.
just regarding the double speak, for anyone who hasn't had a chance to book a ticket for our Natural Women's Council conference on the 5th of April, we actually have a session in there on vocabulary and double speak to really break down what the language means. So just a plug for our conference on the 5th of April 2025.
Yeah. So here it is, SDG 5. This is from the website. We'll have the link in the description. Achieve equality and empower all women and girls, or anybody who identifies as a woman and a girl. That's basically they don't say that here, but that's what they're talking about. So you can go into all of the niceties, etc., that are associated with this. And usually when you go to the website, you're going to see pictures of women in India and Africa and Pakistan and places like that. They're pushing a trans agenda, agenda here. That's really what they're doing. They're not really interested in the full equality for women, but the marketing spin is that that's what it is, right? And of course, in the Western world, that equality has been achieved. There's more graduates, women graduates from universities in the USA now than there are men. So there's no notion of any kind of difference. So yeah, this is, as I said, it is marketing is what's going on here. So
And I'll just jump in, Eugene. As a woman, I'm going to jump in on this one because I
yeah,
would feel personally as a woman that if I was given more rights just because of my biological sex, it would make me feel like they thought I was inferior. And there are certain things, yes, in life that men do better, and certain things women do better, and that's what makes us special and different. But I worked my way up the corporate ladder. I was in corporate for over 20 years, and I was a senior manager where I had many men under me as my direct reports, but I worked hard. I put in the, you know, persevered, and I demonstrated myself through my abilities and my competence. I didn't need to be treated special or given some sort of handicap because I was a
yeah.
woman. That would actually be an insult to women. We should all be treated on an equal playing field, regardless of the sex that we're born or the color of our skin.
100%, Jana. I've seen some videos where they've been talking about equity in schools to assist the black children to kind of get to the same level, or to have a level of equity, which is totally disingenuous to those children who could be as smart or smarter than their Caucasian
Absolutely.
equivalents. And this is
Yep.
how outrageous this stuff is, guys. I'm sorry. It's the same thing for women. So
It's back to the Marxism, Eugene. It's creating oppression. I'm oppressed because I'm a woman. I'm oppressed because I'm
yeah,
black. I'm
because your
oppressed
identity.
because I'm gay or trans or whatever. It's that
Yeah,
Marxism and oppression, constant oppression. I'm not oppressed because I'm a woman and I don't want any special treatment.
yeah, yeah. It's the same. Same for a person of color. So this is the issue. Now, the definition of gender. We've gone to the UNESCO website, and I've blown it up here so you can read it. And the definition of gender here, this is like words from a book on feminist theory. That's where the language here is the language of feminist theory. Unfortunately, that's
Mhm.
what it is. And of course, then gender is socially constructed, and it's not biologically predetermined, and it can change over time. This is the gender theory, the postmodern gender theory, which is based on Marxism as well. It's based on all those oppressive, it's based on Marxist conflict theory and male
Mhm.
privilege and all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, this is the influence that we see in our second or third level institutions. This is the influence of the academics who worked on the DCU course, the SPHE course. They were
Mhm.
bringing in feminist theory into that course. They're Marxist feminist theory. We saw it from E.J. Reno in Wales. Her material is just rancid. It's radical Marxist material, unfortunately. And this is where this is coming from, this notion of socially constructed gender. I'm sorry. So this is what this is the definition, and this is the we'll see this definition now is common across all the people who claim to be supporting gender equality. Unfortunately, it's the same for all of them. So here, the Catholic Church. So why were the Catholic Church having a problem signing off on the COP29 agreements associated with this, and why did countries like Russia and Saudi Arabia, for example, they're kind of strange partners with the Catholic Church? They're not really aligned, are they? But they are aligned on one thing. They didn't want to sign off on this thing because the gender terminology was being used. And they know that the UNESCO, United Nations definition of gender is the socially constructed gender. It brings in transgenderism, etc. And that's why they didn't want to sign off on it. So we'll have a link to this in the description, just to show people this is why this was happening. And of course, this doesn't get very much publicity in the Irish media.
Perhaps the Vatican needs to let Helen McEntee know there are not 72 genders, and that should be removed from the hate crime legislation.
Well, 100%. It's in the Dignitas Infinita document, if people want to check that, from the Vatican, which talks about transgender ideology and says it's abhorrent. It's totally contradictory to Catholic teaching. So any Catholic person who thinks they're still Catholic needs to wake up to that fact. So here we are, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We'll talk about them for a few minutes. We need to talk about them. Their commitment to gender equality. And you can see the photograph here. You can see what they're doing, right? They're just playing the usual marketing card. A woman of color working in science, working in a laboratory. Absolutely, absolutely. And that's happening. Like I spent 30 years of my career working with women engineers and managers in India and other countries. And they were great people to work with. And for 30 years, we never had an issue. There was never a discussion of racism or subconscious bias or white privilege or anything, because we just got on with the job and we respected each other. Like this nonsense that the Marxists have brought in, this identity politics they brought in, creating problems where problems don't exist. I'm sorry. And you know, and there are countries where women are oppressed. Absolutely. In the third world, and that needs to be fixed. But it's not a general problem. It's not a problem in Ireland. I'm sorry, guys. On the right-hand side, we have the definitions from the Bill and Melinda Gates website. These look like pages from an SPHE course, talking about the definition of gender and sex. Like DCU probably took these definitions from wherever they got them, because it's the exact same stuff. And they talk about your personal pronouns down there. So this is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation pushing this, right? And they are pushing it big time. They're pushing it to the tune of $2.1 billion. That's what they're pushing. So I don't know if people realize this. I didn't realize this until recently. I didn't get it because you never see Bill and Melinda Gates associated with the LGBT community. You never see Bill Gates with a pride flag or a trans flag or anything like that. He's kept away from that. He's using the gender equality thing. He's hiding behind gender equality, equal rights for women. But the reality is this man is pushing transgender ideology. He's a major funder of the WHO, as we know, and the standards that they produced. He's a major funder of the International Planned Parenthood Foundation, who are contributors to the WHO guidelines. And you can get puberty blockers within 30 minutes of presenting. So we can see that Bill Gates has got an agenda here, a big agenda.
In the description field, we'll put the link to the piece that we did on the billionaire philanthropist who are the ones influencing the education and the transgender agenda. So we'll put that link in comments, because many people listening may be saying, why would Bill Gates want to push the transgender agenda? We know why. Yeah. So we'll put that link for you to watch for yourselves.
Absolutely. And in that video, we talked about this group, the Population Council, that were originally founded by David Rockefeller.
Depopulation Council.
The Depopulation Council. So this group, to be in no doubt, this group was founded with the express objective of managing population, the world's population, and controlling it. They weren't founded to have social justice and equality and equity, etc. That's just the language of marketing, the leftist marketing that they portray. You can see the flag here. Like, when you go into this thing and you went into gender equality and equity, and now you see a trans flag, you see the progressive trans flag. Do you know? So let's explain the progressive trans flag to people who don't understand it. The blue and the pale pink are for transgender ideology or queer theory. You could say that's queer theory, basically. And the black and brown is BLM, which is critical race theory. These are Marxism. Like, that's what that is. This is Marxism impinging across on top of the LGB movement. So they're capturing that movement. That's why there's gays and lesbians who are against this. They're against this flag and they're against this agenda, because this is Marxism taking over the LGB movement. That's basically what it's doing. And you can see it here with the Population Council. So the Population Council are covered in that video. And an important thing to note, look at the different groups that the Population Council collaborate with. Some of them, it's a
Government
collaboration
of
with
Ireland, no surprise there.
United Nations, UNESCO, USAID. There we go. Agency for International Development from the US. No surprise. I wonder how many millions of dollars they're getting from USAID into this group. I'd be interested in finding that out. And you can be sure that the CDC sponsorship of this group and some of the other ones, the NIH, they're not great institutions either. And there's more to come out of those institutions from what is happening in the US. So you can see the origins. And of course, the Gates Foundation. There we go, the Gates Foundation. And why are Gilead Sciences in here? This just as an aside, Gilead Sciences get more than 50% of their revenue from the LGBT community, primarily with HIV medication, PrEP and HIV drugs. So that's why Gilead are funding these people. So people need to wake up to what's happening here. This isn't genuine. This isn't people with genuine interests in women's rights. That's not on their mind. That's not the agenda. And people need to think that, to wake up to that. And here we have, I need to talk about the referendum, because we were going to have a gender equality referendum. That's what it was supposed to be. That's what it was originally called. You can see it here, right? This is from 2023. Now, a number of us reviewed the referendum and we reviewed the 3 proposals. And we could see that one of those proposals was to introduce basically the notion of gender identity into the Constitution. The feedback they got must have been horrendous, because the government pulled back from bringing that in because they knew it would be defeated. And not only would it be defeated, it would spark a very aggressive debate as well, where all of what they were doing would be uncovered in the public forum. So they couldn't let that happen. So they pulled back on that and they brought forward the woman in the home and the care agendas or referendums.
And it was voted down. 75% of the public said, we don't want to remove woman. We don't want to remove mother. We don't want to remove the word home and bring in this communist, Marxist gender ideology nonsense. The people said no, and they'll probably try it again or bring it in the back door.
The Communist Manifesto, if you want to go back and read it, talks about the destruction of the family, getting rid of the family as we know it today. And that's also a queer. People were saying they were queering the Constitution. So queer theory is basically communism focused on gender and sex. That's what it is, really. So Ireland voted against this. So we shouldn't be bringing it in by the back door, pretending it's equality for women, because that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. It's marketing. It's pretending it's something else. And here we have the Athena Swan program. This program, which is outrageous, comes from the UK. Grip Media have covered this, actually. So we'll put a few links into Grip Media articles into this as well, because they've gone into it in a bit more detail. So you can find out more about it from their articles. It was originally about real gender equality for women. That's what it was, the real gender equality where women are women, whereas now it is totally changed. It's the gender equality view. It's the Bill Gates view of gender equality. It's the UNESCO view of gender equality, which happens to be the same view that the Irish government are taking right now in terms of gender equality. This has destroyed Irish education. It has destroyed it. And, we're not going to go into detail in it here, but as I say, we will have the gripped articles in the description. And if you talk to anybody who's been in a university in recent times, as a student, perhaps, particularly in the arts and humanities, but it's all over the universities, but arts and humanities are particularly bad. It's pales in complexion. The last 10 years, it's destroying our third level education. And this will have consequences. This will have consequences for Ireland down the line. If we're spending money on literally just, indoctrinating students into Marxism and woke ideologies, and focusing on identity politics instead of focusing on the actual material, the scholarship, and then using equity. So God knows what the standards are happening, because when you bring in equity, your standards go through the floor, because the standard becomes the lowest common denominator when you bring in equity. That's what happens.
Having that healthy competition is really good for kids to try their hardest. And if everybody's just on the same playing field, you get points for participation, everybody's the same, nobody's special. What would motivate me to do any better if you're on the same playing field as someone who isn't as academic or athletic or playing a musical instrument or whatever in life it is? Everyone has their own unique talents. Everyone should be their best, and no one should be put on this curve to just be the same as everyone else. I mean, that is just outrageous.
Yeah. So people wondering where this comes from. This comes from Marxist critical theory, or critical Marxism, as I like to call it, because I think that's probably a better name. And we'll talk about that in a different video in the context of education. And critical theory is a poison. It was developed basically as a psychological weapon to destroy Western society. And it's succeeding. It's absolutely succeeding. And we've too many politicians and academics all too willing to bring it on board. But it's toxic, and it's destroying our third level education. And it's also destroying our second level education and our primary education as well. It's coming to that also. So be warned. So that's why parents need to really be watchful of this stuff. And here's just more about it. You can just see it. It's diversity, equity, inclusion. It goes through sustainable structures. It's like, this is just the language of Marxism. I'm sorry. If you read the books, you'll see this language. It's the same stuff. And they dress it up in terms of discrimination, harassment, sexual violence. It's the Marxification of Irish education, and it's the destruction of Irish education at the third level. As it's currently defined, gender equality is the promotion of gender ideology, based on the definitions of gender that these people use. And that's the same definition that UNESCO used, that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation used, the Population Council used. That's no surprise, because they're one and the same, basically. And it's the same definition that the Irish government, Department of Education, the HSE, and the Athena Swan program all use that definition as well. And so we're all in line on this. And unfortunately, we're all in line with something that's false and is being driven from a political motivation, is also being driven by an oligarchical motivation by this gentleman here and the people, some of his other fellow compatriots in the billionaire set, who like to cause trouble. People like George Soros and his Open Societies Foundation, which is Open Societies is basically like an open borders communist. That's what Open Societies is actually standing for. As far as I can see, Janet, these are the number one funders of this thing. And so he is the number one person pushing trans ideology at the moment in the world, from what I can see. And the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are doing it.
He benefits because we've seen him say there's too many people in the world. Population reduction is on his agenda, so we know that. We've seen all the documents. Everyone can watch the previous one we did on the billionaire philanthropist. So he has the depopulation agenda, that's no lie, but he also is a big pharmaceutical investor. And a child pushed down the transgender path is worth over $1 million to pharmaceuticals. They also have a reduced lifespan. They won't make it to pension age. They can't have children either. So another bonus is they will be sterilized and their lifespan will be shortened. So psychopaths like Bill Gates benefit financially, and it contributes to their depopulation agenda. It's absolutely beyond belief. It's horrific, and it's being pushed on children in the schools, not just in Ireland, but across the West, because of this man here pushing this to line his pockets in his agenda.
Hence, everybody on the left is aligned with people like Bill Gates and George Soros.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah.
So
they're out there waving whatever flag they're given. So they're waving the flag, thinking that they're grassroots, thinking it's all about kindness and inclusivity and gender equality and rights. They don't realize that this is going to take away all of our rights. This is totalitarianism. This is depopulation. This is sinister. So everyone out there waving all your lefty flags, this is who's behind it. You're not on the side of freedom.
Yeah. So we'll have links to some of those related videos. I know a lot of people who watch our videos watch them on phones, so you don't look at the video description. In our video descriptions, we include references to everything we discuss in these videos. So if people are claiming there's misinformation, disinformation, we have the reference links. And most of the reference links that we show are actually back to the original organizations that we're talking about. So most of the links we'll have are back to UNESCO, the Gates Foundation, etc. So because that's where the information comes from. This stuff is in plain sight if you know where to look for it. It's not really hidden, right? It's not talked about in the mainstream media. They're not going to talk about Bill Gates funding this, etc.
No.
But if you know where to look, it's there, and that's what we'll show you. So check our video descriptions, because we'll have the links to the source materials, and we'll also have links to other references that maybe go into more detail, some of our own videos that do that, or other people's videos that do the same. So please check out the video description. That's it, Jana.
That's pretty heavy information for everyone. So we'll leave it at that, and see you next time.